Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have the great pleasure of having Irv Tremblay here with me from Regina, Canada, where it's really cold right now. So I appreciate you being inside to speak with me today, Irv. So real quick, I just want to give an introduction so the agents watching can get really excited about what you're going to share with them. 31 years in real estate, so long real estate, very successful real estate career. And Irv, you've worked as an individual agent, you had a team of up to 10 agents, then you cut it down to a smaller team. But I asked you earlier, the highest number of closed transactions you've done in a year individually as an individual agent, not including the team, you told me 121 closed transactions all by yourself. Yes?
Correct. That's right. And
Amazing.
before I forget, thank you for having me. It's always great to talk
Uh,
to you, and thank
I
you for
know, always
having
great.
me
When I
today.
go back, I don't know, maybe 20 years or more. So
Sure.
I always enjoy speaking with you. So much experience, so much knowledge to share. So for the viewers, or if I asked you to write down and share with the viewers from all of the experience you have in real estate, what are the top 5 things, the most important things a brand new real estate agent needs to do to, as quickly as possible, have the same success you had in your career? So I know you wrote down the 5 points for me, right? So
Uh,
I'll give you the microphone.
Well, it's really hard to I found when I got thinking about this, it's
Mm,
really hard to pare down to 5 points, and,
yeah.
I may have missed something that maybe should be in the 5, but it really is because, 50 come to mind, and
Mm,
I can tell you that thinking about these, I wish somebody would have told me these and held my feet to the fire to do these 5 things when I started. But just
yes.
my thoughts of what are most important, and when I think back on my career, what they are. So, number 1, I would say you should hire the best coach you can find,
Mm,
without a doubt. I hired my first coach after I was a year in the business,
yeah.
and it was really interesting because the guy I worked with who was successful
Mhm.
hired this coaching company, and
Mhm.
he convinced me a year into the business to go to a seminar, which I did, and I hired that coaching company and had them for, and that's how you and I met,
Yes.
for 20 some years. And
Yes.
so I'd say hire the best coach you can as early as you can. And I
Yes.
think when I say early, if you're getting into real estate, and I don't know if any people are on this that are getting in, but I'd
Yes.
hire a coach before I actually got licensed.
Yeah.
And that's what I did with
I
uh, our daughter. She was going to get into real estate.
yes.
And so she had a coach a couple months before she got in real estate. So I'd say hire the best coach you can as early as you can. And I found in coaching classes over the years, people hire a coach all the time, but don't do most of anything that the coach teaches them. So they're kind of throwing
Exactly.
the money out the window.
Or if, I agree with you 100%. I've talked about this on my YouTube channel. The first coaching company that I hired was Mike Ferry, and that's where you and I met. I
Correct.
was 6 months in real estate and broke. I mean, I
Right.
was a stay-at-home mom, and I went to one of his events, and I was just so motivated and inspired by what I hear people doing. I'm like, I need to learn what's going on here. So why do you think it's that is so important? What, in your opinion, why is that so critical?
Because good coaches teach you what not to do
Mm-hmm.
and what to do and the importance of them. They really do. And I think when you hire that coach, a point I'd like to make is you have to have blind faith. I've been coached for years in many things, not only real estate.
Mm-hmm.
and I've coached people. I managed, an office for a couple of years. I lost my mind for 2 years and managed an office.
And you
And,
got it back. Yes.
yeah, and, uh, so often people that hire a coach analyze what the coach says to them. They have to have blind faith.
Yeah.
And so if there is a good thing that I think I have in my character, I have blind faith when I hire a coach. I just do what they say and I don't think about it. I don't analyze it. I don't discuss it with other people. Oh, my coach told me to do this and it's
Right.
not me. I don't feel like it. Just have blind faith and do it and you'll be successful because the coach is never going to tell you anything to do that's not going to help your business. So I
Correct.
think that's really important when you hire a coach. I've been on many coaching calls and there'll be 50 people on the call or whatever and there's two doing 50 or 75% of what the coach says.
Yep. Yep.
So
Sadly,
follow what
that
your
is
coach
very
says.
true. I can attest to that. But the ones that do actually have success. So that's the whole point of it. Why reinvent the wheel, right?
Well, I'll give you a good example. I had a coach and I had a team. I had 10 people on the team, and the coach analyzed my business 1 month, and I had a great month.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of money coming in. And the coach says to me, "What are you doing up there in Canada, Irv? What are you doing? I'm looking at your numbers, huge numbers that month, but you're doing more than 80%. You have 10 people on the team." So
Wow.
my coach says, "You fire 9 of them. You get rid of them, send them away. And when I call you in 2 weeks, I want you to have one person on your team." I had to have two because a couple were married. So I had to keep two. And that coach says, "You better do that or I'm not talking to you again." I listened to my coach and I had a couple months that had that much volume with just me and another agent or
Right.
two other agents. So
Yes.
there's an example of having blind faith in what your coach tells you to do. A lot
Yes.
of people wouldn't have done that. They'd have discussed it with 10 other agents who don't know anything
Right.
and not done it. So or they wouldn't have followed through. So I think that's important and that's probably the best example I can give you because
Yes.
he said, "Wow, okay, I got to call these people in and send them off to another brokerage."
Yes. Yeah. 100%. What did you write down for point number two, or what's the next thing a brand new agent has to do to be successful?
Building their database. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is you should have, I'm old school, notepad with you or whatever in your car whenever, and think of all of the people continually that you know. And when I say that, that you could pick up the phone and phone them and they know who you are. You know
mhm.
who they are, they know who you are, not just somebody that you casually know their name.
Right.
Build that database daily and
Mhm.
it should be in your goals to add to your database daily until the day you retire. You should
Wow.
always be adding to that database and do something with the people that you add. It
Mm,
is your gold mine,
I
and
know.
you have
And
to.
you did that really well. Or you and I worked together, right? And
Yep.
I remember you called a lot of for sale owners, which is my thing and I love it. And I never had a database, but you did, and you got so much business from your database, and eventually you sold your database. So it really is a gold mine that even after you sell it, you keep getting money from
Sure.
it. Yeah.
And most agents can't sell their business because they don't have a database. And
Right.
so my database, like you'd look at some clients that would go back 20 years and the notes of every call in my top producer. I use top producer. And still today, when I make calls, I go back and some of those people in the database are 30 years back, and you can see the
Mm,
conversations and the notes
wow.
in the file, which is, I think, is pretty interesting. So build that database, and it's not just you're going to build it when you get in real estate. Should be a goal until you retire.
100%. Yeah,
Okay?
something I never did, but always admired how well you did that and how much business you got from it. So amazing. What is number three, Irv?
Well, again, it's something that you have to do from the day you get in real estate till you retire, and there's no way around it. And I think some people getting in real estate if they knew that that's a key thing that they have to do, may not get in real estate.
Yeah.
You, if you're going to be really successful, you have to prospect every day. But the heading of the point would be treat it as a real job.
Mm.
And most agents that I've met in my lifetime do not treat real estate as a real job. They say they do,
Mhm.
but they don't. And what I mean by that is that you go to work every day and do 5 income producing activities. And when I say treat it as a real job, I think that their job should start at 8 in the morning, and for sure they can't be anywhere else between 8 and 11 except in front of their computer, or if anybody door knocks these days, but sitting there and prospecting on the phone and treat it as a real job. And when I say that, so often people say, yeah, I'm in real estate. And yes, I treat it as a real job and it's a job. But somebody will call them and say, well, let's go here. Or their aunt comes in from Miami and all of a sudden they're not at their real job. And if they had a real job, they couldn't do that. And so what I always had in my mind and what I trained people on my team, I'd say, listen, guys, you're not treating it as a real job. Pretend that somebody phoned you up and they had a $10 million property. They phoned you and said, I want you to be here Thursday morning at 9 o'clock because I'm going to list my $10 million property. I'm not interviewing another agent. I'm going to list it at the price you suggest, and I will pay you the commission that I suggest. Would anything get in your way of
Not
being
a
at that appointment?
chance. Not a chance. That's such a great example.
And that's how you should
Yeah.
have your prospecting in place.
Yeah.
My kids knew, like our expired listings used to come out Friday. My kids knew, don't be calling dad between 8 and 11 on Friday because he's making money.
Yeah.
Because I'm calling every expired there was. And so I think so often agents are really
Yeah.
very loose with their time.
Yeah.
And if you had an appointment like that, you'd never miss it. And I
Never.
think you should have that in your head. That's my prospecting time. And if you're going to
Amazing.
be successful in this business, what I call successful, you need to prospect and treat it like a real job. You
Great.
know, it, I've seen agents do this. They're
Mm.
supposed to be prospecting. They're getting emails, they're reading emails, they're reading texts, they're getting appointments. My receptionist knew that she wouldn't send any calls through, not my receptionist, the office receptionist. Wouldn't I had not orders, I asked her not to put any calls through to me from 8:30 I get to the office till 11:30. So
Mhm.
she'd write them down on pink slips and give them to me at 11 o'clock. So one day she says to me, "Oh, Irv, how come you can't be like everybody else?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She says, "Everybody else takes their calls, but you sit in that office with a do not disturb sign and you're there 2 or 3 hours and I have to write these down and give them to you. Why can't you be like our other 100 agents?" I said,
Mhm.
"Well, I'll show you why. Let's go back to the copy machine." So at the back of the office, we had a copier. And above that, we had the 100 agents in our brokerage. And they
Mhm.
all had their names. And you had a
Mhm.
red dot for listing, a yellow dot for listing sold, blue dot for buy or sale. It's
Mhm.
near the end of the month. So you got 100 agents, and they have all these dots. Well, I had about 21 dots. So there was all kinds of agents with no dots, 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dots. And I had a very successful month that month. I did. And I says, "Carol, here's why I can't be like any other agents. I don't want to be like an average agent.
Yeah.
That's why."
Yeah.
So that time is so important, and people will drop the ball all the time during that prospecting period. And my office staff, when I had assistants or two people working for me, knew that they would never call me except if somebody phoned and it was a listing appointment. They'd knock on the door and say, "Irv, you have to call this person."
Yes, absolutely. Irv, I would imagine you and I didn't talk about this, but if you hadn't really focused on prospecting daily, I would imagine you would not have had a real estate career really. Because what's the option to just sit around and wait? I mean, not much happens when you're just waiting for stuff to come to you,
Two reasons. Well, that reason would, if I didn't prospect, I wouldn't be in the business.
right?
The other reason I wouldn't be in the business if I had to work with a lot of buyers.
No,
Those are two things that would keep me out of the business.
yeah,
I had to work with buyers every day, be a buyer's agent, and work with buyers. I wouldn't be in the business.
I agree 100%.
Okay.
All right, Irv, what do you have for point number 4?
Well, you have to list and be a listing expert, and you have to be an expert on numbers. But you know, my whole career was always based on listings.
Mhm.
I worked with buyers um, when I was new in the business, and I always had a goal. After the second year I was in the business, I had a goal with another producer in our office, a big producer, and we were friends. And I said, I'm going to have a year when I never put a buyer in my car.
Yay!
And that year was 2000. So I'd been in the business 8 years or 9 years. And then the year 2000 was the first year I never put a buyer in my car, just
Yay.
listings. I referred my buyers out to buyer's agent.
Yeah.
And often I would interview them and sign a contract with them, but I wouldn't work with them. So it'd be like a listing appointment. So you have to list. And when you think about it, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but they're probably still the same.
Mm.
It takes you about 4 times normally as long to sell a buyer than it does a listing.
I know,
Why?
Irv, but agents would say, but getting listings is hard. Their buyers are abundant. It's easy. I just could just show them how to. It's not easy to take listings. They would say that.
Well, sure, and I not that I would counter it, but what I would explain is it's hard if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, true.
And the better you get at it and know how to get listings. Uh, you know, our daughter, hired a coach before she got in real estate. She had her first for sale by owner appointment and took the listing 2 or 3 days into the listing.
Oh,
And
how
she had a young child, and I said, "You can't deal with buyers. It doesn't work. If you want to be at home with your young child, you have to learn how to list." So I think you have to learn and be trained how to list. And why agents work with buyers, in my mind, is that they're not trained how to list, how to have a good listing appointment, how to prospect, how to go on bona fide listing appointments. But a buyer is tangible, right? They're there, they're in the car.
it's an
It
illusion,
looks like
but
you're doing.
to them it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
prospecting is something out in space.
Yep.
It is. You're making these calls, but you don't see anything and it's not tangible, and that's hard for people. But what they have to realize is the better you get, my calls, people talk about, I think at one time, I think there were trainers that said 7 calls to get it for sale by owner listing.
Hmm.
I think my average was like 3,
Wow.
like 3 calls, and I get a bona fide for sale by owner listing, or
Amazing.
it would be probably 3 calls for an expired listing.
Yeah.
And so I just think you have to just concentrate on being the best and the best trained listing agent.
Yay! I second that every day. So
You
we're
know,
good
and
there.
and
Uh,
buyers are great.
yeah.
Buyers are great, and I think they're really good, but not for me. And
Not for you,
so I
exactly.
would sign,
I'm like, what are
I
you talking about? Or not for you.
not for me. I get all kinds of clients. I have a big database that call me today and they want to buy a house. Well, that's great. I meet with them. I go through the whole buying process with them. They get a pre-buying package from me. I meet with them for a half hour. I go through the whole buying process. I introduce them to my buyer's agent, no matter how long they've been a client. And we talk about, even a relative, And I explain to them why they're better off with the buyer's agent than me. And I tell them, you don't want me. You want me to sell your house, but when you're buying a house, you want my buyer's agent because she is the best in the business and
Yeah.
she will look after you better than I will.
Yes, she's a
And
buyer specialist and you're the listing specialist. It's so easy.
well, sure. And I give them the example of the doctor. The doctor doesn't do all this when you go on an appointment. At the doctor's office, he has people that are expert in these areas, and then he has his expertise, and mine is listing.
Yeah,
And people will say, "Oh, gee, my clients are different." They're not different.
right.
I can't remember the last time I had a buyer's appointment where they didn't want to work with us or wouldn't sign a contract. It's been many, many years.
Yeah, it's
As
just,
long as you have a good presentation
yeah,
and it makes sense to them
that's
and
right.
it's an advantage to them.
Beautiful, amazing, Irv. And what's the last thing you wrote down for us?
Well, I can't remember. I have to look at my notes. So only do income producing activities. And what I mean by
Mm,
that is agents tend to do things that don't make them money.
mm,
And so I think you want to prospect every day, go on bona fide listing appointments,
yes.
do lead follow up,
Yep.
uh, write offers to purchase,
Yep.
negotiate listing offers. Everything else should be done by somebody else. And you need to hire one office staff, train them, send them to training for office staff. We always did that. We sent them to assistance training programs,
Yes.
and they look after everything else so you're free to do the only things that make you money. And those are 5 things, and that's what you should be doing all day. And instead, agents, oh, they're on social media and they're, putting some advertising program together. That doesn't make you money. Get somebody else to do all of those things except the income producing activities.
This has been amazing, Irv. I know for a fact, as much as agents may resist doing what you said, because it's
Of
just
course.
the nature, if they do, they'll have amazing success. When I was selling real estate, I was thinking just like you. And the point number one that you had was hire a coach from the very beginning, because it's a lot easier to start doing things the right way, the productive, efficient ways, than to build a bunch of bad habits that you now have to backpedal and start changing.
So,
And a lot of the agents watching this, they're brand new. Some of them are just, they're working on getting their real estate license. So if they take what you said here and they run with it, they're going to have amazing success. So I really appreciate it.
do I have time to make one more point?
Yes, of course.
We always talk about good books to read.
Yeah.
And, I know that I don't know if I know, I'm pretty sure you've read the book, The Platinum Rule.
Yes, I have it. Yes.
That's a great book to read, you can only put so many points down, and that rule is about all the personality types, right?
Hmm.
Expressive, driver, analytical, amiable. That is a great book for everybody to read, and what we used to do as a team, and my staff and myself, we would take any client that I had, and my staff was trained to know this from talking to them on the phone, and then I would verify that when I met them, what personality they had. My staff could tell on the phone when they talk to somebody, oh, he's real analytical, or she's analytical, or she's amiable, because my listing presentation and meeting them and dealing with them was based on my personality versus their personality. I'm
Mhm.
a driver. I'm going out to meet an amiable. Irv's got to soften it up a bit,
Have
right?
to
Or
adapt.
I'm going out to meet an analytical. That gets you a lot of extra business if you know your clients, what personality type they are. And for this Zoom meeting, there's going to be people that are on the meeting that are analytical. Well, I know they're going to get off this meeting and they're going to be analyzing what Irv said.
Yeah.
And there are other people that will take it and run with it. You know, a driver might do that. So I think that is a great read for them.
Mm.
And every client that you work with or everybody you talk to, you should be able to, by how they talk to you and when you meet them, how they dress and how they act, whether they're an amiable and expressive, and know that me as a driver, who I get along with very well and who were opposites, like, driver, amiable, I
Analytical, no.
no. So,
Yeah,
that's a
but
really good
being able
read.
to adapt in these selling situations, right? We used to always talk about that is
Yeah, and
critical.
our
Mhm.
file in the inside flap had the personality type
Mhm.
of the person that I'm going to list their property with or I'm dealing with them, and that helps you a lot in dealing with them right through the whole process.
Yes, very good. Great advice. Thank you Irv, so much.
Thanks so
It's
much for
always
having
great
me.
to see you.
You too.
Yeah, stay well. Say hi to the kids and grandkids. And
I will.
thanks again. I will see you soon.
Okay, thanks very much, Jackie.